Yes, indeed. Hi, I'm Pastor D.K. Smith. I want to welcome you to DAP Ministries TV show. And yes, I want you to know that we're here just for a short, brief time because Pastor Willie Williams, the host of the show, will be here also. But we want to let you know that DAP Ministry TV show is here for the community and for those who are listening, whether you're listening in your bedroom or looking in your living room, kitchen, or wherever you could view this show. We say thank you for viewing us. Also, don't forget to check us out online. We're here for you. Again, we'd like to thank Pastor Willie Williams, as again we say, as the host. I'm Pastor D.K. Smith, the co-host, and it comes to my privilege to bring on someone who I've known for a little bit of time. I have to say he's younger than me, but he's gone through a lot in his youth, and that's Dwight E. Clay, other known as Pastor X, and we say to you, yes, welcome to the show. Again, you've been on before.
I have. Thank you. Thank you. I'm glad to be back on the show. I'm glad that you had me again.
Right. And in fact, we could talk about that just for a little bit, the fact that the COVID restrictions of COVID-19 are being lifted nationwide, statewide. Let's deal with the city and everything. And so we can just share, how have you been since COVID-19?
I think that since COVID-19, I've pretty much been like all of us. Mm-hmm. You know, in the beginning, it was very confusing with all of the restrictions. And to say the least, I enjoyed the downtime. Mm-hmm. The downtime gave me a lot of time for self-reflection, which I think that a lot of us needed. But it was stressful, and I think for most of us, I can say, you know, it was draining, you know, just not knowing what's happening next and losing loved ones and all of that along the process, you know. Mm-hmm. But thank God we're here.
Right, and so again, we thank God for the opportunity that we can present this TV show, because we were in a hiatus itself, you know.
Right.
But the main thing is, and I say for my memory's sake, I recall that you were working at the airport in one capacity, and I was telling someone that I was telling Pastor Williams, it's just like, yeah, you know, Dwight E. Clay from the airport and everything, but now you're no longer at the airport, so give us an update on what's going on in your life.
Yeah, okay, well, before COVID in 2019, God had given me a vision to start my own business. And I stepped out on faith and began to start that business and start operating that. And that was a big, huge leap of faith, because I left my comfort zone. You know, I love being around people. I love talking to people all day long. You know, love seeing people coming and going and everything associated with the airline life. But then, you know, I had a vision, and God spoke to me just a few months before August of 2019, and had shown me what he wanted me to do with my path and invest in my own company. So I stepped out, I did that, and then COVID came along, and there were some struggles along the way, but along the way God began to reveal more and more his blessings with that leap of faith. So I tell everyone, you know, if you feel the urge of God speaking on your life to do something, even though it may seem crazy to other people, sometimes you just got to take that leap, you know.
Well, you know, you said it right there. It says a leap of faith,
right?
And that's what it means to, because bottom line is, a lot of us, like I say, we're in our comfort zone,
right?
And we feel, because hey, I can more or less attest the same thing. When I was laid off from the radio station in January of 2020, and then COVID became a reality more or less a few months later. Right. I was fortunate enough to at least sustain some finances with the severance and all like that. But still in all, I could say I'd rather be laid off than let go and fired.
Right.
Because for those who stuck around, a lot of things went south and companies gone down and everything like that. Not just for the radio station, but for a whole lot. So in the beginning, when my situation was what it was. I didn't know how to take it, but that's all a part of reality.
Right.
That's all part of reality. So what type of business do you have now that you started?
Well, I started a trucking company.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's been a blessing to be active in transporting goods and across the nation, and to be a part of that lifeline of America.
You become an essential worker. Huh?
Definitely, out of nowhere, because when I began in the trucking industry of that year, when we started the company, trucking had taken a hit. There were big companies like Celadon that had gone out of business, and that laid off, I think, somewhere up to 3,000 drivers. Wow. Right there in the latter part of 2019. So, it was scary. I had to ask myself, I said, God, is this really what you want me to do? Just a few months in, I know you showed me this vision. I know you wanted to elevate me. I know you gave me this vision, but is it what you want me to do? And we ask those things as humans, right. Because we think that, okay, I hear the voice of God, I know God is speaking to me, so let me go ahead and do it. But we don't realize that before we get to that promised land, we got some desert to go through, right?
Go through that wilderness.
And so then that happened, and so March of that year came, and COVID of 2020, COVID comes, and I'm starting to see everybody around me getting sick. I'm seeing drivers out there sick and still trying to drive, and so it got very scary. Mm-hmm. But the industry began doing better, and that just reminded me. Of the book I had written a few years ago.
Right,
Looking on the Brighter Side.
What was the name?
Looking on the Brighter Side.
Looking on the Brighter Side. I remember the book. Yeah,
right. Yeah, you hosted the book signing.
That's right. What am I talking about? Yeah, right. The book signing.
And so I had to remind myself that even in those darker moments, that a brighter side is coming. So COVID came, and everything associated with that plagued my mind as well, just like everybody else. You don't know what's going to happen. You see somebody perfectly healthy on Monday, and then you get a call by Thursday that they're dead. Mm-hmm. And I'm not talking about older people. Right. I'm talking about people my age. Right. Or people that are just beginning to live their lives between their 30s and 40s and early 50s. And so that created a moment of a lot of self-reflection too.
You know what? I'm not to cut that short, because we know that God had blessed you with that vision to do what He said for you to do.
Right.
And prior to that, you were talking about the book and everything. Now I understand. And I like to talk about analog and digital.
Yeah.
The book is analog. You could read it and everything like that. But let's talk about the digital side of Looking on the Brighter Side.
Right.
So what has come about with Looking on the Brighter Side? I think you have a podcast or something like that?
Right. So I recently started a podcast called Looking on the Brighter Side with Pastor X. And I wanted to be able to reach people where they were, driving in their cars, sitting in their homes, wherever they were. And let's face it, a lot of us don't have time to sit down and read a book. Right.
That's what I said.
It's 2021 and people are busy. They got busy lives, so we don't have a lot of time to sit down and read a book. But what I wanted to do, I wanted to create a space for conversation. Mm-hmm. So we bring on guests from different aspects of the community to talk about their journey and their struggles. And sometimes it's easy to see people and you think they've got it all together. But on the back end of it, people are crying inside. People are dealing with a lot of things behind the scene. So I wanted to bring that to the forefront. And that's what Looking on the Brighter Side is about. Taking our dark moments and learning from them and saying, there's a brighter side coming.
That reminds me not so much of a sermon, but a saying that I always say, something, heaven, everybody want to go to heaven.
Right.
But, in order to go to heaven, you got to die.
You got to die.
And I say this also, in order to go to heaven, you got to go through hell.
You got to.
You got to go through hell.
Part of it. It's part of the process.
Paul says that the misery or the suffering that we suffer down here is nothing compared to the glory we see in heaven.
Right.
So we all must go through certain things. So having said that, can you, first of all, tell me how people can listen to the podcast, and 2, just share with me some of the guests that you've had on the podcast. So how can someone say, I want to hear the podcast, Look It on the Brighter Side by Pastor X? How can they acquire that?
Well, they can go to any podcast platform. We're on all podcast platforms. We're on Apple, Spotify, Anchor, all of those. It's there. Okay. Some of the guests that I've had on, I had Dr. Ashley Douglas. She's a therapist at a psychiatric hospital, and she talked about mental health matters. I've had on the show recently, I had Brother Willie Muhammad. Mm-hmm. He's the author. He spoke about his book, Addressing and Surviving the Pressures of Life, which was great and informative. And then I had a segment on religion in our community. I had on 2 brothers, Brother Darryl Mims, the congregation Gates of Prayer Synagogue in Metairie, and I had on Dr. Asad El Malik. He's an author, and also he works in the field of mental health. And he's Muslim. So we brought all 3 of us brothers together. So these are some of the things that we've been doing, just having the conversations, and getting people engaged and letting everybody know, we all have a dark side. We all do. But there's a brighter side.
I like that. Because that is so important. And I'm going to say this as far as biblical lesson is concerned, with the Muslim, Jewish, Christian, all 3 monotheistic faith, believing in one God. Mm-hmm. And there's a correlation there, the fact that recognizing the beginning and all the way up into Abraham, the understanding of that monotheistic faith, that believing in one God,
right?
And that's a good correlation to what you're doing and everything. Mm-hmm. Now, even still with the psychiatrists and the other educators and everything like that, you've done some things with rappers, huh?
Yeah, I have. We have K Banger. Mm-hmm. He's an artist, hip hop artist. Lil T, hip hop artist. RC International. I've interviewed all of those brothers. Another young brother from here in the city named Rennie. Mm-hmm. But I actually enjoy the conversations with the rappers, because it's so raw and uncut, and they're so unfiltered about how they feel about every aspect, and to understand where they're coming from and how they create their music and the creation process that goes along with that. I've got a lot of respect for those brothers. One of the brothers that we interviewed had done 7 years in penitentiary, and he tells us all about that, and he keeps it 100% real to him about everything with those experiences, and maybe in those lessons of how he even got there could be lessons that can help other young men that are going through some darker times. And if you're going through those darker times, using your mind to create a different path instead of accepting whatever dark moment that you're going through,
Okay, now we're getting ready to take a break, but before we do that, Pastor Willie Williams will come on the second half and everything.
All right,
and
looking forward.
Half for you to share with us, because I won't have time right now, but half for you to share with us, who is Pastor X, and tell us about Pastor X. Don't say it now. Right. That will entice everyone to stick around, and we'll be back with more of the DAP Ministry TV shows with the host, Pastor Willie Williams, coming up right after these messages.
Poor nutrition today will increase Sarah's chances of anemia, add to her healthcare costs, sick days, even stunt her ability to learn. And the thing is, Sarah's not even born yet. Get proper nutrition before it's too late. Call or visit WIC. WIC provides